Hey everyone, it's Julie at the Paper Bag Lady 1. So I've had a couple requests to show how I actually construct the album itself for my paper bag albums. So I thought I would try to do this on camera. I'm not used to doing any kind of thing like this, and so I have a very weird setup. So hopefully you can actually see what's happening. I'll probably record this whole video and then look at me and won't be able to see anything. Oh, anyway, all right, so this is what I start with. This is a paper bag that is approximately 6 by 12. It's actually a little bit bigger, maybe like 6 and not even quite a quarter by 12 and not quite a quarter. But anyway, this is what I start with. Each album has 3 of these. And basically, you fold it, well, I fold it in half, line it up, fold it, and then my bone folder, line it out. So it takes 3 of these to put an album together. Oops, I'm gonna reach. You can probably see my head now. And then what you do is I lay them this way, that way, and that way. So it's kind of every other way. And when I have them all 3 there they are. You can sort of tell how this one is wrinklier. So I have to iron them all, and I use steam on the iron, and I just go through, I iron the bags, iron the bags, iron the bags, put them all together, iron it down there, and then you're left with this. Now, what I used to do is actually have my mother sew them, and she'd just take her sewing machine right down the middle there. I can't sew. I've tried to sew a straight line. I fail miserably, so I have her do them. However, sometimes I just need to put albums together in a hurry, and so lately I've just been sort of binding them myself. The easiest way to do it is just with a ribbon or string or something, and I just take my crocodile, punch a hole there, flip it, and this is with the smaller hole, and punch a hole there. So then I have 2 holes, and then I take my ribbon or whatever else it may be, and this I'm just using this yellow, I'm not even sure what it is, because I'm binding this album here, which uses this throughout. And it's a fatter one. And you'll see after I do this why I'm using the ribbon in this one. But you just take it, put it through the hole. This is about as wide of a ribbon as I would want to use. Usually I use thinner ones. Often I'll just use that really thin satin ribbon, the kind that you can buy at the craft store for like 50 cents a roll or something like that, or a thin lace. But this one I wanted to use what actually matches. So if I can get that through the hole, I'm at a funny angle, like I'm here, but my body's like that way, so I'm kind of working crooked. Ooh, there it is. Okay. So then I pull it through, kind of get it straightened out, and it's going to bunch up like that, and that's all right. And then I just take it. And if you have another person who can put their, finger down here for you, that's great. I usually don't. I just sort of do it myself. Run it through. Keeping my finger on there until the last possible moment, and I pull it, and there it has it. Now once you get to this point, you can either cut it down and let them dangle here, you can cut them tiny there, which is what I usually do, or you can tie it in a bow. So that's one way to do it. And the other way, which I actually just, whoops, I have to reach again, just did today for the first time, I will show you. I take my album and I put my little binder clips on it. And then what I'm going to use is this, it's called Crafter's Cord True Hemp. It's real thin, as opposed to maybe some other hemps, which you can see is a little bit thicker. This is the one I'm going to use, and then this is the thicker one. So what I do is I take a big old needle. I don't know if this is an upholstery needle or what, but string that through. Then I start at the inside, and I'm sure there are proper ways to bind these things, like bookbinding techniques. I don't know what they are, and frankly I was too impatient to look it up, so this is just what we're going to do. Then you can measure and be precise, but I sort of eyeball the middle, poke through, pull it through, and leave, a little bit there. Don't need a whole lot. and I go to the outside, and depending on how far from the edge you want to do it, I'm going to go about right there, and poke back through. I have the binding clips on it to hold it so that the bags don't shift around. Then I'm going to go back in this same hole outside, and then I go out to this side, or this end. Again, eyeballing it, do it about the same place the other one is. Push that sucker through, and it's hard. These are very heavyweight bags. I buy them at a restaurant supply store. If you use the standard bags that you would get like at a grocery store, it'd be a lot easier to poke your needle through. But I like to use the heavyweight ones. So once that's through, then you pull it down towards the middle. Pull it tight. And this stuff kind of stays in place. You don't necessarily have to use your finger quite as much. But pull it tight. Oops. Go around, tie it in a knot again. I've gotten very good at doing this one-handed, as you can see. And then once it's tied like that, then I just snip it down pretty low, like that. And then I actually usually put the whole pages in first, but I'll show you this now. Just because I've never done this before, and I think that this should stay tight, but just in case it doesn't, I take my little glossy accents and put a little bit of glossy accents over the knot to keep it from unraveling or coming loose or whatever. And then this one is going to have this album in it, which is fairly thin, say, compared to that one. You can see the difference. I'll show you. Like, this is one that I bound earlier using that, and it doesn't have a lot of fat embellishments, so it stays pretty nicely. This one is not as, it's wider than that yellow one, but as you can see, the embellishments are pretty thick in there. And if I tried to do this, it kind of sort of pulls it. I have one that oh wait, let me get it and I'll show you. Here we go. This one isn't particularly wide, but because of the ribbons that I use, it kind of gets fat right down here. And so you can see it kind of buckles it and pulls it a little bit right there. If you use a lace or a ribbon, it kind of has a little more give to it. And so when you get into a fatter album, that's why I prefer to use it that way. So you can use lace, you can use ribbon, you can use, like I use strips of cotton that I've coffee dyed, if that's what goes with the look of the album. So there we go. So that's what we have. And so there we have our bound album. And I just pick a color. I check to see what the middle layout is, because that's what you'll see here, and make sure that my color kind of coordinates with both that and the cover. Then I actually put the album together. And I'm not going to do the whole thing, but I will show you how I do it. Okay. I usually start with the back cover and take my glue. I use Fabri-Tac, which is a liquid glue. It doesn't work, it's not as good on like a thinner paper, like if you have a paper that's not a cardstock kind of paper, because then it makes it buckle. But anyway, I just sort of put it around the edges and in the center. Center it on there. Give it a little rub, and there it's on. Then what I do is I start from the back. I leave the very back page and the very front page till last, because if you put something that has dimension and you keep putting on top of that, it kind of gets fat. That's just personal preference. You can really do it any way you want to. But so then I would go here. Now this one is not particularly fat or puffy, but I'm going to show you what I do anyway sometimes if the embellishments are thick, or if the paper is really, really sturdy, whatever. So I take my glue dots, and these are the little mini ones. You can use the mini ones or the regular size ones. And I put them at the corners, And again, depending on the paper, some papers, like a lot of the die cuts with a view, especially if they're shiny papers, they really are not a very flexible kind of paper. And so when you glue it down, it kind of wants to pop back up right away. So unless you have all day to sit there and hold it down, you know, you can put them on the corners. Sometimes I don't put them on any corners at all. Depends. And that's just a matter of preference again, and also kind of trial and error. I've sort of learned what type of pages need to have a little more help and which ones don't. So again, I put my fabric tack on there, center my page, push down, that way the corners stay. And fabric tack is, it's liquid, but it's not like an Elmer's glue. It does pretty well. I have found, let me find a scrap here. I'll just use this. I have found that with fabric tack, especially if you want it to stick a little faster, you put it on, and if you kind of go dab, 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 that kind of oozes the glue and makes it a little more tacky and sticky. But I also like to use this because you have a little give. If you put it down and it's not quite straight, you can kind of rearrange it and whatnot. So anyway, I just go through, continue to put all the pages on, and then when I'm done, the very last thing I would put on is the cover. An album like this that has the tie, I obviously choose my lace and glue a piece of it to the front and the back covers before I put the actual paper onto the album. But yeah, so that is how I build my albums. And it would be the same thing with an 8x8 album. These are 6x6s. The 8x8 bags that I get are not as heavy weight. They are a more standard grocery store lunch bag type weight because they don't make it in the size that I would want in the heavyweight. So that's kind of frustrating. And sometimes if I have a thinner paper, I actually will back it with cardstock, or maybe put cardstock on the inside of the bag, or not cardstock, chipboard, I'm sorry, to sort of give it a little more oomph. But you can tie it the same way and sew it the same way. So that is how I build my paper bag album. So I hope that made sense to everybody. If anybody has any questions about any of it, how I do things, if I haven't covered something that you want to know, just let me know. But otherwise, I hope that was helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day. Bye.